Welcome to the Near Memo, a weekly conversation about search, social, and commerce. What happened, why it matters, and the implications for local. All right, so let's move on to this kind of hybrid thing that I'm going to be talking about, which is on the one hand a survey of consumers conducted by Scorpion around search quality, search satisfaction, and then a talk given at MozCon recently by Tom Capper, which I did not attend, but I read the coverage of, which talks about the kind of growing challenges against organic SEO, kind of going forward, the aggressive monetization, the AI overviews, the snippets, some of the things that we were talking about, Mike, before this recording started, about just the way in which Google is loading up pages with lots and lots of kind of proprietary Google stuff. So first, on the survey side, there was an interesting survey, I guess, conducted earlier this year, but just only recently published by Scorpion, which is essentially a marketing agency / technology provider for SMB marketing. And the survey sort of cites a number of challenges and frustrations that people are experiencing with search results. Now, we've had a lot of anecdotal discussion of declining search quality, and a lot of debate. Is Google worse today than it was? And that has gotten a lot of airplay. But this is the first consumer survey that I've seen that directly addresses these issues. And what it sort of says at the highest level is that more people are spending more time searching and sifting through results than 5 years ago. And the top three frustrations that people are experiencing with presumably Google search results, I think it's Google explicitly, is that they're having to comb through a lot of results. They're having to kind of come up with queries and refine queries. And then they're having to visit multiple websites to get the information that they want. So there's a lot of clicking back and forth. There's a lot of sort of scrolling, and there's frustration in sort of figuring out the right query to use. So this would seem to be evidence of this anecdotal discussion of the sort of decline of Google's UX and search quality. And then at the same time, just to sort of flip over to the other issue and kind of bring that into the conversation, just a lot of factors converging on the search results to contribute to that frustration. It's really about SEOs. It's really about the challenges that SEOs will have going forward. I believe that Search Engine Journal called it an SEO crisis sort of in the making. Just getting visibility in organic search will be more and more difficult, which is something everybody's been talking about for quite a long time. And I think these two things are broadly related. As Google sort of scrambles to address its critics and has all these dedicated modules in the search results for different things. Like this morning, I was doing a search for the AI humane pin. I wanted to find an article that was saying the company was being sold. And there was just Reddit and Medium, and I just couldn't find the straightforward information quickly. It should have been at the top. And this is just reflective, I think, of the way in which Google has forced a lot of stuff into the results that make it more difficult for people to find what they wanted, which is what Paul Krugman, the New York Times columnist, was saying also in his recent newsletter, that when he's searching for information he knows exists, it's harder to find it today than it used to be on Google. So that was a sort of a mishmash of a lot of stuff, but it does seem to at least on the survey side, indicate that consumers are starting to feel some of the stuff that we in the industry have been talking about for quite a while.
Yeah, I want to commend Scorpion. I think it was a really smart survey for them to do, and one that we haven't seen. To your point, Greg, we've seen a lot of tech literati commenting on this phenomenon now for 2 or 3 years, but this is the first time I think anybody's really tried to get a somewhat quantitative measure of search quality from the people for whom it should matter the most, which is everyday people. So I think hats off to Scorpion for that survey. I think on the Tom Capper keynote, I would say that this is, to your point, this is not necessarily a new phenomenon. I think the sort of AI overview panic and the overloading of SERPs with different modules that diminish the value of any single organic position. This is more part of a trend that's been happening for the last 10 years,
Right.
probably,
Yeah.
even long. I think longer than 5 years. And so I think that we maybe are just now at the sort of tipping point where all of these things are coming together. That Google's now the cart has now been overloaded so heavily with SERP features that the axles are breaking, right? And so I think it's more of a tipping point accumulation, difficulty for organic search than it is the sort of panic. I think that the AI overview panic is just sort of a convenient red herring, and now Google's even scaling that way back because of all the
Way back. Yeah.
disastrous, potentially life-threatening answers that the overviews are giving. So, but I want to say, like, I've done some research for a newer client over the last month, just doing some competitive analysis of a bunch of different SERPs for different keywords in different locations, and they're in a sort of, they're not exactly what I would consider like an e-commerce business. So these are not necessarily product level searches, but the dramatic sort of infestation of search results with PLAs, both on the right-hand rail, on desktop, top carousels, embedded grids in, you'd have 2 or 3 organic results and then a whole block of PLAs. I mean, it really, it speaks to this strange, and we saw it at Google I/O, let Google do the Googling for you. We have the AI organized search results. And it's like, what a strange mental model for the best search result that a consumer would prefer is all of these different modules. And the way we're going to make this better is to have AI organize the modules. It's like they're just starting from a absolutely bizarre product standpoint with their thesis of what consumers want. And I think the Scorpion survey sort of highlights just how wrong that thesis is.
Although in Europe, we saw these results that have popped up after the DMA, where Google started including more local results under the main pack. So there'd be a couple ads, a local, and then a few organic, or maybe one of these new units like places, and then more local. So
another pack, yeah.
Another pack. Oh, well, it wasn't quite a pack. It didn't have a link in, but then they would recur repeatedly down. And then this week we're seeing this test where it is 100%, well, 98% local with like web stories mixed in, halfway down, and then more local, and then web stories. It's sort of like, oh, here's everything you need to answer this query, a near me query. But if you want to go out to the web, here's a couple web stories you might find interesting. So I'm wondering if this response in local is a response to, and then it also allows for these new localization ads that use the auto generate from your GBP, the imagery, and the map. So it's like in Europe right now, you're seeing this very consistent look to the results that are predominantly local. And I'm wondering if that's one of their responses to this. We're going to show more of our own stuff, not less, and we're going to make it more consistent with user demand. And of course, it's all self-referential, and nobody's criticizing us about it. So we're going to double down on it.
The irony there is that may be a better experience for users than
it may be. But has Google ever really tried going back to the 10 blue links for local search? I've never seen those tests, right? Like, when was the last time you saw just a straight 10 blue link response for restaurants near me? I mean, we just don't know. We don't know what they're testing, right? Is what I would say. And I'm questioning their starting point with what they think people want. I think that their tests are not nearly dramatic enough. They're testing what modules make sense in the right spots rather than a radical A/B test of like, do people want modules or no modules? And to Mike's point, maybe this local test actually is the sort of no module test, and maybe we will see an all organic test, rolling out next month, where we're sort of able to compare and contrast behavior. But it just seems like their default mindset is, modules with various search result types, and they're, to Mike's point, they're sort of doubling down on that, even in cases where it may run them even more afoul of regulators.
There was that cartoon. I don't know if you guys shared it or I saw it somewhere else, which was Google, before and today, and on the before side it was like stuff you want to see, and then on the right side it was like module, identifying all the different modules, ads, PAA, et cetera, forums. And I just thought that was a great metaphor for, it's not really a metaphor. It's really a representation of what's going on. But it was kind of funny and interesting to see. The final thing I would say about this Scorpion survey is that even though it's not behavioral data like the stuff that we do, where we do user testing, watch what people click on and watch what people engage with, that's behavioral data. Survey data is attitudinal data, or in some cases sort of aspirational, depending on the question. So people often will say things and indicate things to surveys that don't quite line up with behavior. But I think that doesn't matter in this case as much because this is a leading indicator of what people's behavior will be. And there have been now a couple of surveys, one by Sochi, and there was another one, I'm not remembering the source, that indicate younger people are going to social media instead of Google to find information. And so, when we combine all of this evidence, we do see user frustration growing with Google search results. And, that was originally sort of signaled by the Prabhakar Raghavan statement that 40% of people are going to TikTok and younger users and Instagram to find restaurants, right? So Google knows it, and they're scrambling to respond to it. And some of the hidden gems, discussions and forum stuff is a response to it. They're sort of wild and crazy experiments are kind of a response to this. So we'll see where that all lands in 6 months.
Thanks for joining David, Mike, and Greg. To stay on top of the latest developments in local, subscribe to our newsletter at nearmedia.co. We'll see you next week.